Hi, in this video we're going to talk about static variables and static methods. Simply put, a static variable is a variable attached or associated with the class and not the instance of the class. So in other words, you can actually access that variable without instantiating the class. It's kind of cool. And the same holds true with the methods. So let's kind of demonstrate that here. We have a simple class, it's dog. Now we can look at this class and notice on lines 10 and 11, it has two properties, are also known as instance variables. Name and age are variables that are associated with the instance of the dog, not the actual class, but the instance. So we had 5,000 dogs instantiated. Each of those dogs would have its own version of name and its own version of age. We also have a method called talk, and it doesn't do much. It just returns a string, woof woof, and it says my name is, and whatever the name of that particular dog is. Furthermore, we have our self-executing function that keeps us out of the global namespace here. We don't want any code right here. This is bad, having code against the left margin, not inside any kind of closure. So we have our self-executing function. We have a variable called myDogs. It's an array. And notice on line 20, var Fido equals new dog, and we have two arguments, Fido and 5. Fido is the in the constructor, which name is assigned to that, and then age is the a, stored in a as the argument, and that is assigned to the age property. So that's all we're doing on line 20. We're instantiating one dog, and that one dog has a reference here stored in the variable Fido. Once Fido is instantiated, we go ahead and put Fido in the myDogs array. So if we go ahead and run this, it's not going to do anything. So why don't we actually do a little console log here to prove that this works. I'm going to console log the first dog in that array, which is myDogs, sub 0, and let's console log what its name is. And semicolon, we go ahead and run this, and it says Fido. All right, so why don't we go ahead and make another dog. I'm going to copy and paste this particular line. Let's copy and paste both of these lines here. Lines 20 and 21. And let's call this guy Max. Again, you can name this variable anything you want. The actual name is being stored here of the dog. He's going to be a different age, so we don't get confused. We go ahead and push him into the array. And now we got two dogs. We have Fido and Max. We instantiate Fido on line 20. We instantiate Max on line 22. And then we put Fido, on line 21. We put him in the array. And then we put Max in the array. So now we have a total of two dogs instantiated. So we have two instances of the one class, two instances of dog, and they all have both of those dogs have their own name and they have their own age. So on line 24, we're drilling into this array. So myDog sub0.name, we already looked at that one. So let's look at the second dog, and it'll show his name. We go ahead and refresh the browser, and Max will show up. Why did Max show up? Because that's the name of the second dog. Remember, arrays, zero-based indexing, so 1 is really the second element. So we're displaying the name of the second element, which is index 1, of the dog in that array called myDogs, which is Max. So this should be all kind of not new to you guys. You've been working with arrays for a long time, or lists for a very long time, since you've been doing C# or a previous language in a previous class. So we have not done any statics whatsoever. So let's explore our first static variable. Now we're gonna need a reason for it. So let's say you had 10 dogs. You're a crazy pet owner. You might even have 10 dogs, 4 cats, 6 birds, and all that kind of stuff. But let's just focus on dogs for right now. So let's say you have 10 dogs. Now, most likely, you're taking those dogs to one vet. Now, let's pretend you had no idea what a static variable is. So you might be thinking, well, my dog has a name, so we have it here. My dog, each dog, and remember when you're saying this, that's like each version of a dog, each instance of a dog. So each one has a name and age. Well, my dog has a vet too. So you go this dot vet, and let's go ahead and hard code the value here because what your vet is. And just for simplicity's sake, let's go ahead and name it supervet. We go ahead and run it, but instead of consoling or logging the name, let's log the vet of the second dog. So we go ahead and run this, refresh the browser, and it should say supervet. So what is the vet of your first dog? Well, it's going to be the same, supervet. Because you look at your code here, you gave vet like kind of a default value of supervet. Now you didn't have to do that. You could have just left it blank and like be consistent, right? With name, how you left name blank and left age kind of blank. Well, why don't we do the same thing with vet? So when you create Fido, it will say Fido dot vet equals supervet. Okay. But now you go to your second dog, Max. Well, he has the same vet. All right, not a big deal. So after you instantiate Max, you say, hey Max, your vet is supervet. Well, what if you had a third dog? And then your fourth dog. Remember, you have 10 dogs now. So you have your fifth dog. This code is going to be the same except for the reference of the dog. If you have a property of a dog that's going to be the same for every version of your dog, every instance, then you really should not make it an instance variable or a property. It doesn't make any sense. The reason to have property is to differentiate from one instance to another. Like if all my dogs had the same name, I wouldn't make it a property either, but they're going to have different names. If you have a property or a variable that's going to be the same, hence the word static, not changing, the same value for every instance, you might as well make it a static. Because if you didn't, let's say we kept on going, and let's say you had 10 dogs, 10 birds, 10 turtles, and they all go to the same vet. You would have to write that. That's 30 pets, right? Dogs, turtles, and what else? That birds or something. So you would have to write that 30 times, once for each pet that you have. That is not very efficient. So what you could do is say, I'm going to make vet not a property, not an instance variable, because it's the same. I'm going to take line 22 out, since we're not doing it this way anymore. I'm going to go ahead and take line 25 out. And let's treat this vet variable as a static. So after you define the class, now this is very important, after the class definition, after it's been defined, if you're using JavaScript, on the line after the curly brace, type the name of the class, not the instance, nothing like that, the actual name of the class, dot the variable name that you want to use. In this case, it's vet. And we're going to make it equal supervet, because I can't think of another name for a vet. And don't forget your semicolon. So look what we did here. We took vet out of the constructor. It is no longer an instance variable because you took it out and now you set it to the actual class. Notice the difference. This refers to the instance of the dog. Instance variable. This is the instance, vet is the variable. We took it out. Now look at the code here. Here's the variable name, same name, but look it's to the left of the dot. That's not this. That is the actual class, the name of the class. Dog on line 8 matches line 19. So now you're saying there's variable attached to the class as opposed to this variable on line 12 attached to the instance. All of my dogs have the same vet. So let's say you made 100 dogs. Let's do that really quick. Let's make 100 dogs. I'm sure you know how to do that. I hope you know how to do that. We're going to use a little for loop here. We're going to for var I equals 0, I less than 100, oops, and I plus plus. So we got our loop process going on because I really don't want to do dog 1 equals new dog, dog 2 equals new dog, 100 times. Not cool. So I got my loop. I got this process happening 100 times. What do I want it to do 100 times? Well, I want to create a dog. So I'll just say dog equals new dog. And then, oops, next line of code. Oops, I gotta go ahead and put the names. So Just to make it cool, I want to say the name of the dog is Max, but I don't want them all to have the name Max. So let's be kind of creative on their names so they're at least different for each dog. So I'll concatenate the iterator, the I variable, to their name just to make them different. I know it's not like the coolest name in the world, but so all my dogs are, hey, Max 0, Max 1, Max 2, all the way to Max 99. And then their age is going to be whatever their I variable is. So my dogs will be 99 years old. That's pretty good. We got our loop going from 0 to 99. We create 100 dogs, but one at a time. Each dog has a name called Max plus the I, so Max 0 all the way to Max 99, and their age is 0 through 99. So every dog will have a different name, and every dog will have a unique age, just for demonstration purposes only. Now, as the dog are created, we'll go ahead and put them in the array. So my dogs, I'm going to push each of those dogs into the array, and I believe that's it. So the dogs have been fully created. The next thing I want to do is create a method that will display the information about each dog. So function, we'll call it display info, and I'm going to loop through the my dogs array and display the information about each dog. But to accomplish this, I'm going to use the for each method instead of an actual loop. So the array is my dogs. The method is for each. I'm going to run an anonymous function here. And let's go ahead and console log, just for now, the entire object itself. So console log E. So let's go ahead and actually invoke the function. Display info. Go ahead and run it. And we notice here it is showing all 100 dogs that are inside the array. Now I'm going to go ahead and modify this display info so that it only shows the name of the dog and its vet. Right now it's showing the entire entity, the entire object itself. So let's modify this console log and say dog name. And then after the name, let's go ahead and concatenate the actual name of the dog, e.name. And then after that, we'll say vet, and then the actual vet of the dog, which would be dog.vet. Now let's go ahead and run this. And notice there's the names of the dogs, 93, dog, max 91, 90, 89, and the vet, super vet. Okay, I'm going to jump back to our code here. Now let's say you wanted to change the vet for each of our dogs. Now since vet is a static variable, we don't have to loop through each dog one at a time and change a particular instance variable or a property because it's not one of those. It's a static. So we can accomplish this with one line of code. Now remember, we want to do this before we actually run the display info function. Dog dot vet, and we can make it equal my new vet. And notice we did this with just one line of code. So we changed the static variable, and now we run the function again. Go back to our browser. Here's the old stuff with the super vet. We refresh it, and now all our dogs have a new vet called my new vet. Let's go back to the code here. Again, we were able to do this by adding one line of code and modifying the static variable vet to equal a new value, my new vet. Again, if we didn't make this a static, we would have to do a technique like this, like loop through each of the dogs and change the vet property one at a time. You could think of a static variable as a global variable, but only global to the class that is attached to or associated with, as in line 29. The variable is vet. The class that it is associated with or attached to is dog. So vet is like a global variable, but only as it relates to dogs.